this one is a doozy, ladies and gentlemen, as Jakob Chychrun has finally been traded. Breaking news in the NHL this evening. We're back at it again with another live data cast. Of course, I can't even eat a meal anymore as breaking news is just happening left and right. Jakob Chychrun traded from the Arizona Coyotes to the Ottawa Senators in exchange for a 2023 first-round pick, which is top 5 protected in case Ottawa were to win the draft lottery, a 2024 second-round pick, and a 2026 second-round pick as well. So 1 first and 2 seconds for Jakob Chychrun. Is it that the Coyotes overplayed their hand? It may very well be. Where they were originally looking at getting a package from the Kings. I had seen the reports and made a data cast myself, it feels like a week and a half ago now, that it was basically Chychrun to the Kings was over and done with. They were getting a package of prospects. Gabe Vilardi may be involved. Alex Turcotte may be involved. Picks, all that good stuff. And they end up taking, as Derek says here in the comments, their first big L. The first is nice, but they're banking the entire return on getting an impact player in one pick. Andrew, livid over this as well. And as Derek also says, a huge win for Ottawa. If they work out who plays what side with 3 lefties now, then they have a formidable top 4 to go with their stacked top 6. Canucks could have paid a second-round pick on top of their pay for Hronek. So yeah, there you go. Hronek goes for a first and a second. Chychrun goes for a first and 2 seconds. Crazy, right? Crazy. So let me just go and break this down for you quickly. Jakob Chychrun, here as the full trade reported here by Dave Pagnotta, Jakob Chychrun for a first that is top 5 protected this year, 2024 second round pick that's next year, and a 2026 second round pick also down the road. In the next 3 drafts, the Arizona Coyotes now have 21 draft picks over the next 3 years of the first 3 rounds. The next 3 years, 21 picks in the first 3 rounds. Ridiculous stuff. Great for the rebuild, but they really have to turn that into something. I just don't like the return. I like how they're looking overall draft pick-wise, but I don't like that they didn't get as much as they should have for Jakob Chychrun. The Ottawa Senators, on the other hand, do not have any 2023 draft picks until the 4th round. So they pay their first or second and their third. It's costly to pay all that in a year where they're likely not making the postseason, very likely not making the postseason. But it will help them long term, and they are in a good position moving forward. After this trade, the Coyotes now have in 2023 first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then in 2024 first, second, third, fourth. Crazy. Look, and we'll look at the Coyotes in a moment, but just on the Ottawa Senators, they now have $3.65 million to play with no top 3 picks. They still have the ability to do some more things. They have Chychrun for the next 2 years after this one at $4.6 million. So you have Chabot, Chychrun as your top 2 guys. If you bring in Jake Sanders into the top 6 next season, there's 3. Who plays 4th? Maybe it's Hamonic, maybe it's Zub, maybe it's Brandstrom at times if he can get up there. But you have 3 solid pieces, at least your top 2. You have 3 solid pieces for your top 4 to go with a very strong top 6. You just got to re-sign Alex DeBrincat now. Austin Watson could be a piece that moves now that the Senators can go ahead and sell on this season. They can go ahead and move Derek Brassard. I don't know what, but they're going to have to use money to re-sign Alex DeBrincat, Shane Pinto, Julien Gauthier maybe, Eric Brandstrom. I'm not sure. Cam Talbot likely also moves, I would think. Goalies next season are Sogard and Forsberg. But I think they're in a very good spot right now. Do you think Ottawa can go on a run to make the postseason? No, I don't, Isaiah. Unfortunately, this year, I do not think so. But next season, as strong as the East has been, a lot of teams who had rentals are not going to be as strong as they were this season. I'm sure many of them still will be, but I don't think some of the ones that are up there will be as strong. Don't get this trade. I thought Chabot was supposed to be the stud D for them. Yes, Vinny, he is. I think you can get Chychrun on that right side. Why do they need another left-handed D? They do also just need the support within their top 4, but I think that Chychrun will just likely play on the right side with Chabot. 2 guys that eat minutes like starving animals. So I would think that. Chychrun will play on the right side, says Cornelius there. So let's get into it a little bit more. Let's look into Jakob Chychrun. Ottawa Senators fans should be extremely excited. Yeah, it costs you a first-round pick, and a good first-round pick at that, most likely. If you're not making the postseason and you're not winning the draft lottery, that means you're likely picking between 10 and 16. You think for this 10 and 15 maybe for the for the Ottawa Senators first round pick. So the Coyotes got a great first round pick. That's great. But you got to say, as a Senators fan, it hurts a little bit, but you'll quickly forget about that once you have Jakob Chychrun next season doing exactly what the Senators couldn't do this year, which was be stronger defensively. Just got to solidify that goaltending, get some more defense added into the mix. But Chychrun and Chabot as your top two, huge. So Jakob Chychrun, acquired by Ottawa, is a two-way defenseman with a great shot, plays an effective physical game in his own end, net front plus boards, has an active stick, and loves to carry the puck. Lacks a bit of creativity when it comes to passing. And we'll get to the microstats in a moment. Over the last 3 years of weighted average data in that wins above replacement percentile, he's in that 61st percentile. Bit of a dip last year, a big dip last year, but he's back to where he was the year before, around that 75th percentile. Goals per 60 in the 90th, that's pretty surprising. And a primary assists per 60, 79th. Finishing 97th, teammates 99th. He's playing with the best that he can play with on his team. 58th percentile of even strength offense. And here's the big one, 79th percentile of even strength defense. And that's over the last 3 years. If we can just look at this season, the defense is a little bit weaker. As we see that the Coyotes have put Chychrun in a position to succeed, and he has run with it, as you will see with the offense in a moment. The toolbox is really excellent. Physicality, great stick, strong skating, high upside shot. Right now, I'd profile him as a number 3 defenseman, but he could take another step. Number 3 on a good team, number 1 obviously on the Coyotes, and you think number 2 now on the Senators. This season, 67th percentile, sorry, not 80th. 67th for offense, 55th for defense. But look at these other numbers. The shot assists, the primary shot assists, shots, chances, passes. Now, aside from that, just look at exit success rate. Not amazing, but well above average. Exit possession rate, 85. Entries, 98th. Shot contributions, 96th. Chance contributions, 94th. Rush offense, 100th. Look at that. So Jay Fresh, one question mark I have with him and the Sens is whether he can play the right side effectively, or I suppose whether Chabot or Sanderson can. People will say he can play either side. Maybe he can, but he has not played right D for more than a few games over his entire career. So it's easy to just say he'll play on the right side, but it'll take some adjustment if he even does end up doing that, right? So Jakob Chychrun, first round pick, 16th overall, the Coyotes back in 2016. They got him essentially for taking on Pavel Datsyuk's contract. He's been a monster ever since. This year, 28 points through 36 games, really crazy offensive numbers. 28 points in 36 games times 20. He's on pace for what, a 64-point season? Wow. On pace for a crazy numbers this year with the Coyotes so far. Too bad he's been scratched since what, February 10th. Since after February 10th, he's been scratched. But yeah, he's always eating the minutes, 23-16 of average ice time this year. A couple of years ago, finished 10th in Norris voting. Over his 82-game average throughout his career, usually good for 37, 40 points. And he can hit 107 times, block 122. So good for more than a hit and a block per game, often blocking way more. I often see him in fantasy blocking 2-3 shots per night. And offensively, what a monster this season, on pace for like a 65, point season. His career high previously was 41 in 56. So that was also a very high pace. But yeah, over an 82-game career, over an 82-game average, he gets 37 points. So to be like almost double that, ridiculous stuff. So now the Senators are very happy to have him in the system. It comes at a pretty solid price in terms of what they had to give up, but it doesn't come at a big price in terms of what the Coyotes got back. Like, let me clarify what I mean there. The Senators gave value. It cost them value. To lose out on a first-round pick in a strong draft year when you're not making the postseason, that hurts. But for the Coyotes to only recoup a first and 2 seconds from a player who you were previously looking at that plus roster players plus prospects, oof, that hurts even more. As the Oilers got their guy, the Bruins got their guy, more and more teams started to fall off. It was becoming an ultimatum for the Coyotes to get this done, who now have a ton of cap space, even more, and just a boatload, and that's an understatement, of draft picks, but only 2 firsts in this year's draft. You would think the rebuild is not just starting. It should already be well underway. You got Lawson Krause, Nick Schmaltz, and Clayton Keller signed up long-term, but that's about it right now. Aside from that, you have, if Vejmelka doesn't move, you have Vejmelka, and you also have great guys in your system, such as Connor Geekie, Dylan Guenther. You have good pieces in the system already. Maverick Lamoureux, But I guess they're just, and understandably so, I wouldn't say I'm content with this group just yet. I wouldn't put all my rebuilding hopes into Connor Geekie and Dylan Guenther, among a few other pieces. So it makes sense why they want those picks, but I'm not sure why they're so stacked on picks in like 2025, especially. If they could transform those into some picks within the next 2 years, that would make a lot more sense for them. But either way, the Coyotes will, I think they'll be a very scary team someday. I think they'll be a very scary team with all of the picks and value that they have. But the question is, will they be able to get there? So going back to the comments here, as Andrew says, just Chychrun, little to no experience on the right side. Derek saying Chychrun is a natural complement to Chabot as someone who's a bit more defensive leaning, but if he can't play the right side, it does get a bit more awkward. Agreed. Vinny says, I love the idea of stacking up on D, but I don't know if they can afford all these guys, especially if Sanderson becomes a stud as well. I think they can. It's just going to become, they're going to become a team like Toronto, maybe super heavy in the top 6, 1 or 2 top guys on defense, and then cross your fingers for the rest. You might have to just hope for the best for your second and third pair D on the Senators moving forward if you're going to dedicate so much money to Tkachuk, Stützle, DeBrincat, Pinto, Norris, Batherson, all these guys, right? Question is, who's next and why have the Flyers been so quiet? They'll definitely get some stuff in there. And even Logan Cooley. I forgot about Logan Cooley. Yeah, I forgot about Logan Cooley out there. The Coyotes just weighted themselves out into less competition, less compensation, all that. Aiden says Hextall needs to be fired. The entire staff was high on Chychrun for the Penguins. Hextall did exactly what he did when he passed up on Makar in the draft. The Penguins got to get something done. Teams like the Penguins need to pull the trigger on something now. The Senators, this deal is more of a long-term deal. It's not really going to do that much for them this season. If anything, it might hurt them. They might get closer to the playoffs and still miss out. The East is just too tight. But yeah, Cooley, a very good piece for the Coyotes. So you have Cooley, you got Guenther, you got a Geekie. They have enough pieces, but I don't know. Defensively, who's there? Victor Soderblom. They want to get just a bit more solid in terms of stocking the shelves, and that makes a lot of sense. It's just I hope they're not in a perpetual. I feel like they're always there. You know, they have a bunch of picks, a few pan out, then some get traded, and then rinse and repeat. So I hope that these like 20 plus picks over the next 3 years turn into something that can make them maybe not even just a good team, but I'm talking like a dynastic team. When you have this many picks, you should become a dynasty at this point. But hopefully, hope that they become a solid top of the conference team within the next 5 to 8 years. Andrew, if the Pens had waived Kapanen or McGinn a week earlier, they would have had the cap space for Chychrun. That's true. They did wait a little long on that as well. Many teams were waiting a bit too long on these deals. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I am just reading something from Jiggles that he shared in the Discord server. Craig Moran sharing, I suspected and reported that this might impact Bill Armstrong's ability to make the deal that he wanted. In a flat cap era where numerous teams are bumping against the cap, when you aren't able to take salary back, it impacts the deal. Interesting. But yeah, great day to be a Sens fan, in my opinion. Really good day to be a Pens fan. Coyotes have a bright future. Just too bad that it'll be in the desert. I think that they can definitely get something going, hopefully led by leadership of Clayton Keller, who stuck around and seems to be a pillar there. So many fan bases are asking why their GM did not offer more for a player of his caliber with term. Just the biggest issue is that not a lot of teams could take it on or commit to the money for long term, even though it wasn't that much for Chychrun. I don't know. At one point, it sounded like it was just too high of a price tag. And then it went from the values too high to there just aren't enough teams who want him anymore, because the teams that did want him, the Bruins got Orlov, the Oilers got Ekholm, the Hurricanes got Gostisbehere. They filled up their needs. They did what they had to do. They weren't going to wait for the Coyotes to make it happen. And now the Coyotes had to pay that price by still getting good value back, a first and 2 seconds, but not as much as they would have gotten had they made this deal earlier, similar to the Gavrikov deal with the Blue Jackets. They end up moving Korpisalo with Gavrikov, and they get good value back, but they're hoping for even more for Gavrikov alone. They have to end up packaging him with Gavrikov, right? So the Kings got who they wanted, or they filled the position. The Kings filled the position. The Oilers filled the position. The Hurricanes filled the position. The Bruins filled the position. You had to now look to different teams who want to say, I want this player longer term. And that's where a team like the Ottawa Senators came into play, and they end up hammering it out for a first and 2 second round picks, excuse me. Going back, if you're just joining us now in the Jakob Chychrun aftermath, he is having an enormously fantastic season. He's on pace for 65 plus points. He is in all of those highest percentiles for all of the things that you'd want to see. His even strength defense, perhaps that's a bit lower than you'd want, but also take it with a grain of salt being on the Arizona Coyotes. But look at all these things. Put him on a Senators team that still has more to do, but can see Chychrun as kind of like a major piece in finishing off the puzzle of the organization before they can say, these are our guys, let's do it. There are still a few positions that they want to swap out, but Chychrun will be a guy, at least for the next 2 years. He's only 24 years of age as well. He could definitely get a nice extension in Ottawa and be a top 2 guy. It depends on what happens with Jake Sanderson, most likely. But the last 3 years, took a dip last season, but the last 3 years together, such great numbers. That goals for per 60 is really impressive, as well as, the even strength defense this year might be in the 50s, but overall the last 3 seasons, it's near the 80th percentile, and overall an above average projected wins above replacement player, and that's 61st percentile, but even more so this season. So that's about it for my breakdown on this deal. Senators fans are cheering in the streets, a huge win for the Senators, and yes, the Coyotes get good value, but not as much value as they would have hoped for. And the worst thing, not as much value as they could have gotten. Speaking with those around the league, the Canes and Caps did not need any retention from Arizona in a Chychrun deal, but both felt the price was still too high. When they pivoted and others like LA pulled out of the race, the Sens swooped in after balking a few times at the original price. So the Senators don't need to give up any of their major pieces. They get to keep all of their cupboards fully stocked, and they don't need to be worried, although they have a projected cap space of only $16 million for next season, with DeBrincat, Gambrell, Pinto, Gauthier, Brandstrom, and Larson all needing contracts if they were to come back. So that's about it for my breakdown, I would say, as of now. Maybe more deals to come, so make sure that you're subscribed for breaking news and analysis as it happens. I'm unfortunate that I missed it by a few minutes. I can't even eat a meal anymore. But trade deadline coverage also coming your way live on trade deadline day. You'll want to be subscribed for that. Vinny, hello, Data, at the Ottawa 67s game right now. Just stopping by to say hello. Great place to be with the Senators making a big deal today. Thanks for stopping by, Vinny. Andrew, Coyotes are a poverty franchise. I feel it, buddy. Leave a like if you enjoyed this trade as well. If you like this trade for the Senators, I think I like it very much so. So yeah, it's a lottery first, but it is top 5 protected. So they get a first and 2 seconds. The Coyotes will like that. So let's just say we ran the draft lottery right now. Hankathon. Let's say we ran the draft lottery right now. What are the odds that Senators could even win that, right? Like, were the Senators... Hold on. Are they really, like... If they were to win the draft lottery, they still get to keep it because it is protected. But the Coyotes, I don't know. I would have pushed that maybe not being included, because the Senators have the 13th best odds over here, or 13th worst. That depends how you want to look at it. Only a 2% chance. Do I think they make the postseason? Unfortunately, I do not. So the Senators are definitely going to have a lottery pick. Now the question is, does that pick win the lottery, or can it win the lottery? The odds are very low. If I sim it, come on. I don't know why it's not going. There we go. There we go. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Philadelphia jumps up from 6 to 1, or from 7 to 1, moving up 6 spots. San Jose goes up, and no one else is doing there. Let's sim it maybe like 5 times. Vancouver, Philadelphia, Columbus. Number 3, Chicago, San Jose, Columbus. Number 4, Anaheim, Columbus, Chicago. And number 5, Columbus, Chicago, Anaheim. So it's definitely not a common occurrence, but it will be likely a pick that I would think is anywhere between 11 and 16 for the Senators that the Coyotes now select. So that's good. They get their top 5 pick. They get another top 15 pick, and they have like 20 other picks in the next 3 seasons. So I like that if I'm the Coyotes, but again, could have been more for Chychrun. Where does Chychrun slide into the lineup? Says Silver RL, excuse me. I would think that he at least gets a tryout on the first pair right D with Thomas Chabot. If things really don't work out and you need to put him second pair, nothing wrong with having a 1-2 punch. but Chychrun is that good that you want him eating those big minutes, and I would think that he does end up getting first pair right D. The Senators will at least give it a really good try for the last 20 games of the year or so. Allow him to get back into his game. He hasn't played in like 3 weeks now. Let him get back into an NHL lineup and allow him to find his way. I'll be very excited to see. I see a lot of Senators games being in Montreal. I see a lot of them on TV, so I'll be excited to see Chychrun with the Senators. Huge addition for Ottawa. The Coyotes get pieces back. Unfortunate that it didn't become much more than that. The Senators clear up Zaitsev's money and they get Chychrun to fill in, so that is a huge win for them going forward. Now, hopefully, it doesn't mean that they can't re-sign the RFAs in their year. And good point by Derek here, a top 9 to 14 pick there this year might be closer to top 7 in value due to the depth in this year's draft class. So that's the thing. Even though it's top 5 protected, if it is a pick between 10 and 15, that's like a top 7, top 8 pick in a normal draft. So the Coyotes definitely are happy to get that first. That's the biggest piece of this entire deal. But again, still, it could have been that plus it could have been a first this year somewhere in the 20s plus established prospects from a contender. Instead, they get no pieces, no prospects, no one to help them immediately, and they get a first this year that will be a good pick, but again, still years away. Gunther, Geeky, Cooley, all still a few years away themselves. The Coyotes still have a few years of pain to go through, but if everything were to go right, they could be a very, very scary team someday. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for this breakdown. Over 50 of us in here at some points. It's been a pleasure to speak with you all. Many trades going down. Not much is going to be happening towards deadline day probably, but we'll be live on deadline day, Friday, March the 3rd, 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern. So make sure that you are subscribed to follow along for all of that. If you enjoy that, I'm sure you enjoy much else that goes here on the channel. So we'd love to have you join in on the team, NHL 23 franchise mode, career simulations, and more. Plus, Discord link is in the description where we're breaking news and discussing hockey as it happens. So thank you for taking the time this evening for the previous data cast with the what's the trade that just happened earlier today? I'm already forgetting. The Philip Hronik trade, and then now the Jakob Chychrun trade. 2 players that were once involved with one another when the Datsuk contract got dumped. So thank you for taking the time this evening. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your night, and I'm sure that we'll be talking very soon once again. Good night.